Hey guys, my name's Kathleen, and thank you for watching Pray Like a Girl. If you haven't already, go ahead and subscribe right here. Make sure you hit that notification bell so you are notified every time we put out a new video, which will be every Friday. You can also follow us on Instagram and Facebook and check out our website. Anyways, I'm here to ask you a question. Now, you may have heard it before, so don't be too shocked. But where are you going to college? Oh, what are you going to study? What's your job going to be? Or, I'm sorry, if you've already graduated from college, what do you do? This has been a question that's plagued me, honestly, my whole life. It always bothered me. I don't really define myself by the position that I hold that pays my salary. I'm very grateful for my job. I think my job is great. It pays my bills. It gives me a regular schedule. I work with some awesome people. I have a great mission in work. But it doesn't define who I am any way more than your name does. Your name identifies you, but your name does not define you. And I think a lot of times we don't use that separation when it's coupled right back on top of each other. So you're asked, what is your name? They ask for your identifier. Great, my name is Kathleen. That's my identification. So immediately followed by your identification, people ask, what do you do? And instead of in our brains saying, this is another form of identification, Kathleen, the communication specialist. Instead of using that as another identification, we use that as our identity. And identification and identity are two totally different things. I don't know about you, but I really don't want my whole identity to be wrapped up in my 9 to 5. I really want to do something that I'm passionate about. Absolutely. But does that define who I am? Absolutely not. Now, your job, what you do, is an important identifier of yourself. Our jobs are part of who we are. I spend 8 hours of my day communicating with other people and working for a cause that I care about. That's definitely part of my identity, but it's not who I am. It's okay to not like your job. It's completely fine. Honestly, a lot of people don't, and they can still have happy, wonderful, fulfilling, holy lives. So I think this culture of asking and pinning what we do immediately with our person, with our core identity, can be really, really harmful. Because if you don't like your job, or you're not great at your job, or you're not fulfilled by it, all of a sudden you feel like your whole life isn't fulfilling. Your job can be a means to an end. It doesn't have to be the end. But oftentimes, I think we get in our minds that our job is the end all be all. This is something I really wrestled with. When I was in college, I studied communications because I didn't know what I was doing with my life. Still don't. But I studied communications. Right out of school, I decided I wanted to go work in the film industry. This has always been a dream of mine since probably like 8th grade. I just wanted to do it. I wanted to be in big movies. I wanted to work on huge sets. I just graduated from college, and I spent the first 8 months after graduation living in my parents' basement, delivering pizza and nannying. Super, super glamorous. I also avoided meeting anybody during that time because every time that I did, the question was, so, what do you do? And my answer always had to be, well, I deliver pizza. It was kind of demoralizing to always have to answer that because you could see the judgment in people's eyes immediately when they said that. I also felt during that time that I always had to qualify my answer. I'm a pizza delivery person, but I'm saving up to go move to Hollywood and be a star. To go, work in film, right? So I always had to qualify my answer. I could never just leave it at, I'm delivering pizza and be happy with that because I felt that they were judging me so much on my full identity as a human being on this one little tiny 2-3 word sentence that I said. I nanny. I'm a pizza delivery driver. Those things were such an identifier and it scared me. It scared me so much. And I was kind of just like, screw it. I'm gonna go try to work in film. I moved down to Atlanta, Georgia, where I live now, and began working in film. Because when I moved down here, I knew 0 people. So I was meeting a ton of people and it was always the question of, hey, what's your name? What do you do? And my answer was nothing. For the past 8 months, I delivered pizza and nannied, and now I'm unemployed. Ding. I mean, like, what the heck? It was so embarrassing to meet new people because I didn't have a job. I also know that beneath the unemployment level, there are so many things about myself that this person's not asking about. They don't care to know. They have no interest in whatsoever, but they're defining me by it. They're defining me by the fact that I'm a lazy, unemployed bum. Living in a city that I didn't know, I literally got my first job on Craigslist. I don't know if I ever told my mom that. Surprise! But it led to another job, and it led to another job, and it led to big sets with actors that you've heard of and big movies. I loved being able to answer the question, what do you do? With, oh, I work in film. Oh, I work on sets for a living. You know, and when it boils down to it, I got people coffee. But I always had a good story to tell. I always had this is my job. But I realized the farther I got into working in film, this wasn't what identified me. I enjoyed it. I enjoyed parts of it, but there were parts of it I really didn't like. I was working in film for probably a year when I really realized that this wasn't the right fit for me. It was my 8th grade dream, right? I was literally working with movie stars and talking to them and meeting all these famous people and meeting some awesome crew people, like really wonderful people. And they've taught me so, so much. But I didn't like it. My favorite part of my job was to be able to answer that question, so what do you do? And if that's your favorite part of your job, there is something wrong with your job. So I eventually got out. My biggest hesitation when leaving film was I was gonna have to answer that question, so what do you do, with something else. And I'd have to answer that what do you do with, for a few months, wait tables. You know, I'm a 25-year-old college graduate and I'm waiting tables and I have no career experience. Like, that sucks. That's a crappy thing to say, and people immediately are giving you pity eyes when you say it. I just get so frustrated that we're so wrapped up with the idea that what we do defines who we are, because it doesn't. Who we are is defined by whose we are, and that's God. I'm a daughter of God, first and foremost. You're a daughter or a son of the King, and that is your number one identifier. All of those things you do are important because that's what makes you holy. That's what's getting you to heaven. Absolutely, what you do is so, so important, but it is not who you are. Honestly, if you think about the saints, when we tell their stories on what they do. Oh, Joan of Arc, she led an army across France. St. Catherine of Siena, she went to France and got the Pope back to Italy. You know, St. Francis Xavier went and was a missionary to parts of Asia. St. Isaac Jogues, he went and converted tons and tons of Native Americans all across the continent. Like, if you look at the saints, we define them by what they do. But the one thing that all of the saints have in common that they did was talk to God. They talked to God and they did his will. So that's what we need to do. If nothing else, if we don't know what we're doing, bing, 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 this girl. If we don't know what we're doing, that's perfectly okay. Whatever we're doing at this point in our life, whether that's studying, whether that's doing a job that you love, whether it's doing a job that you hate, whether it's being a stay-at-home mom and not doing a job, any part of your life that you're at, if you are talking to God and doing what he tells you, then you're doing it right. Let's go back to the wedding feast at Cana. One of the only times we hear Mary talk in the whole Bible, and she says, do whatever he tells you. So when you're asked, what do you do? Say, I do whatever he tells me. And honestly, if you're living that, then you're crushing it. It doesn't matter what you do. It doesn't matter if you're wiping toilets, wiping butts, or wiping the trophy you just won at the Olympics. Why did I go with wiping on that analogy? Whatever you do, if you are doing it in his name and because he's asked you to, then you're crushing it. Keep up the good work.